We're gonna have to record it earlier.
Okay,
So we record better late than never.
We are recording. There are 4 major activities that we're going to be doing. Reducing the stigma of youth homelessness, youth leadership development, establishing systems to navigate housing and employment, and finally, system mapping, which includes collaboration and data sharing. I do want to tell you that the first 3 of these, actually all of them, really came from conversations that we all had with young people who either were experiencing homelessness when we talked to them or had recently experienced homelessness. They talked about their own experiences and the fact that they felt like they had been stigmatized. Particularly, they felt like maybe they hadn't been listened to or taken seriously by people in the continuum of care and by people in the education system. And I do want to say that they're different people had different reactions to different folks within the system. So we're not like casting a blanket aspersion over everybody, but we feel like we all, those of us who work on the homeless side and those who work on the education side, can do a better job of understanding our own biases that we walk into a situation with. So we want to provide some training. We want to do some surveying too to see if, to what extent unconscious bias might exist towards people who are homeless or towards people who are diverse in terms of race, age, or sexuality, or gender identity. So we want to understand what kind of subconscious biases we may walk into a situation with, and over time see if we can address those biases. So we're going to do surveys and we're going to do training with those groups. Youth leadership development is basically, we need to have a strong youth board that will help us guide the project, that will correct us when we go off the rails, and that'll help evaluate how well we're doing. This is an area that we really really have to work on. And we're going to be relying heavily on those of you who are in youth serving agencies to get that done, to help get that done. We have 4 more grassroots type groups that we're going to be leaning on to recruit the youth and to support the youth, and we're actually going to pay these groups to do that. And I think you know who you are, but Safe Places for Youth, Hopes and Dreams, the World Service Enterprise Organization, and the Lord Rustin Group. And so that will be their big job, will be recruiting and supporting youth, so that we can have a strong youth board that will serve both COCs. The third area is establishing systems to navigate housing and employment. Why those 2? Those were the areas that the young people that we talked with mentioned over and over and over again as areas that were problems. Housing, obviously, if they're unhoused, housing is an issue, but so is employment. And they felt like sometimes they were kicked from one agency to another. One agency couldn't help them, but it wanted to do something nice, so it sent them down the road to another agency without knowing whether or not that agency was the right one. That happened with housing and it happened with employment. So we'd like to develop some resource lists of housing resources and employment resources that are real, that when young people go to them, they will be able to provide them with actual housing or access to jobs or training. And the last area we're calling system mapping, collaboration, and data sharing. This also came from the young people. I remember one person in particular, and others might have been on this call, this person had been unhoused in Decatur and then moved to a smaller community down in the rural south central area. One school district to another school district, you know, an urban school district to a rural school district, also from IL-516 COC to IL-515. This young person felt like when I moved, it was like I started over. Nobody had any information about me. Nobody knew anything about me. I had to go get from the get-go. So we're talking about communications between schools and COCs, and between schools and between schools and between COC and COC, all those levels of communication. We'd like to see if it's possible to do some actual data sharing and figure out how to get through the releases. We have 30 months to do this. This is why this one tends to be more pushed towards the rear end of our timeline, because we know that it's a big job. Well, in terms of you know, how we're spending the money, I mentioned subcontracting with 4 grassroots types organizations. We also will be adding I think 4 staff positions, 2 in each COC. One housing navigator, and is that right? Yeah, a housing navigator in each place, and then also a data specialist within each COC. So that's kind of an overview of where we're going with our major activities. I'm going to pause right now and just kind of open the floor for questions and comments, and then we'll talk about what we kind of see everybody on the call, where we see your role fitting in over time. Either I was that good or you're all checking your emails. No comments? We don't see any hands up or anything. Okay. Might as well keep rolling then. And by the way, we're really tickled to see such a broad representation today. We have a lot of different types of organizations represented. So some of you are going to fit into more than one category. So youth serving organizations, which also includes, by the way, the schools, but it includes the groups that I mentioned, as well as like Webster Cantrell, Heritage, folks like that. The main thing that this project is going to need from you is recruiting and supporting people who have lived experience of homelessness who are under the age of 25. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but they don't have to necessarily be currently unhoused, but they do need to have been experiencing homelessness within the past 7 years, or currently be living in a housing project that's supported with homeless funds. And I mean, they could be somebody who's like with their parent living in permanent supportive housing or in transitional housing. Or it could be like the young people we talked with, young people who are in high school, but have kind of been kicked around from parent to parent and are on their own. Any and all of the above. But
Can we talk about how we'll have funds?
Please
for the
do.
youth? We'll also have funds to pay the youth for their time on this, whatever we call it, development board, whatever we're gonna call it, yeah, youth development, youth board. We will have funds to be able to pay them for their time as well. So that'll be something new.
so that's the
Question,
yeah.
regarding yeah, this is Lisa. I had a question. I'm not sure who just spoke about, paying the youth on the board, and is there amount, a designated rate already set?
Yes, there was a set amount we wrote in the application. I will have to double check and see what that amount was. Do you remember? Fred?
I think I remember, but I don't want to be misquoted. Yeah, very good. We'll be looking, we can look that up I can actually find the budget here while we're.
Well, and my question being, because I think we do have a few of the youth that have agreed to participate via Spicy. And a few of them are currently working. I don't know the details, but is whatever they're going to be compensated for going to be competitive enough that they will, not choose to blow off a meeting so that they can go work. I know I'm not quite being articulate enough, but I think you get.
We don't want jobs because of these meetings. You know, if they have a job, they need to show up at the job, or they won't keep the job. But yeah, I can't remember the rate, but it is competitive. It's at least minimum wage.
It's 25.
We're thinking 25 an hour. But we will schedule these meetings at a time when it's convenient for them. And that's.
And they won't be penalized if they can't make every single meeting either. It's not like if they miss one and they're kicked off the group. That's not at all what it'll be like. So.
Okay, cool. All right, very good. Thank you.
Yep, and that also the payment for the youth will be separate than what the agencies are compensated for bringing in the youth, if that makes sense. So it'll be basically two separate buckets. The agencies that are the youth agencies that are helping us find these youth and helping them get to the meetings will be compensated for that, and then the youth will also be compensated in addition to that.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's kind of the role for the youth serving organizations. Just for the
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Hi, so Linda here. So something I was wondering about when you mentioned training, it sounded like that was someplace else. So I was seeing that training would also be part of the recruiting and retention. We've been looking at different organizations that have a lot of experience with it, like Point Source Youth and the Runaway and Homeless Youth Technical Assistance Center. And so, yeah, I was assuming that we would also be doing the training. So where is that?
Okay.
Or how would we work? How can we work together to do that?
Yeah, Linda, the trainers have not been selected. Like I said, we're all fresh at this stuff. But we are going to be looking for people who can provide solid, experience-based training, particularly training regarding stigma reduction. That is the area that we heard from the kids. I don't want to say kids because they're not all kids, but from the young people over and over again, is that they felt stigmatized. So that's
Okay.
And that's what we're looking at. And we're looking at our particular targets for training are people in the continuum of care system, which are people that, such as, work in coordinated entry with it for Dove or for the agencies in South Central Illinois, which would be IRBA, CEFS, and Illinois Valley, as well as personnel within the education system, in the local school districts, in the ROEs, and even in the community colleges, Lakeland and Richland, that serve our area. So we're going to be looking to the people in the education system. This is point B and C under your agenda here, as well as the COCs to support us in training and in maybe doing a survey towards the beginning and a survey towards the end to measure as best we can whether stigmas are being reduced. We will also be looking for both of those groups for as we get into this whole mess about how how we can share data and if we can share data, if systems can talk to each other
Mhm.
and so forth. Because we want to make it, we especially want to make it easier for young people who move from one school district to another, from one COC to the other, for that to be as seamless as possible, so that we're, we can work behind the scenes to get the information to each other, but they don't need to be caught up in all the bureaucratic stuff that we have to live through.
Oh, okay, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, so no, I was thinking in terms of training youth advisory
Oh,
board members.
training the youth board. Okay, that's a totally different piece. We'll have to have some conversation about that because,
Okay, all right.
yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And then, Rocky, I think you're the only representation of the workforce system here today. What we're going to be looking for from you as well as from the LWIA in whatever area this is, would be to help as we get into listing and I guess figuring out where are the good sources for young people to find jobs.
Brad, I was just, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I was just wondering when they were talking about the youth board, we actually have a career youth planner that works with in-school and out-of-school youth 16 to 24. And it might be nice to put that career planner on that youth board because
we
they
can't,
would.
Interrupted you. That board has to be made up entirely of youth who have experienced homelessness who are under the age of 25. So we're not, and that's why we're not looking for people like, as good as your person is, and he might be a good representation for your agency on this group, on our all partner kickoff. But we want to find a place where youth can speak for youth, and that's where the youth board can sit.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Sorry about that. Yep.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It's a great resource to have, and it's we look forward to getting to know that person.
Well, and feel free to invite them to these meetings too, if you'd like. And that's whoever, the more people that you feel would be beneficial to the group, please invite them.
Yeah,
Well,
this is
that position with a youth career planner is to focus on the youth in terms of getting them to complete their GEDs or to get them some paid work experience or into a career ladder. So that's their main focus. So if there's any groups, that they can help, I think it's always good for them to get involved in them. Is the more the merrier, so to speak.
absolutely.
Use us in any way we can.
Yeah, and that's also, we're really interested, at least I'm really interested in that 16 to 24 age group. So much of our work has been focused, working with the school system and people age out, at age 18. And so there's that kind of that older group of youth that we'd really like to make sure that gets represented.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yep. And the last group there is consultants, and that's Jess and myself. And we're going to be working on this survey development, system mapping, kind of serving as liaisons between the all and the funding source, reporting to HUD and that kind of stuff. Fun. Okay, so I hope I've done a good job, if a quick job, in kind of pointing out where each of you might be playing a role as we get into this.
There's a few messages if you want to.
Okay, we want to look at the chat quickly. So
some of these are direct messages, but Rosaline had with some information. I think you should read it. I don't think they can see our chat.
Oh, yeah. Rosaline, McKinney-Vento liaisons provide this training to school personnel for free if the school will allow them to come in to reduce stigma and give information to help. That is awesome. So you can, Rosaline, how can we?
Well, I think
process. Go ahead.
Well, each liaison, that's part of their job duties, is to train. each school has a McKinney-Vento liaison in the school district, and they're
Mm.
responsible for training everyone in their district. And I
Mhm.
think that if we talk to the McKinney-Vento liaisons, the regional ones, to have them talk to their people and try harder to get into the schools to do a training. I know the state of Illinois just passed a law that this training only has to occur every 2 years. And if we
Hmm.
use that as a launching point this year, we can say, this can be your year, and here's the message we want to say. And so I think that might be a way for us to get into the schools this year, if the McKinney-Vento liaisons and the regional ones are willing to go into the schools, or make sure that the training that the district liaisons are doing has everything in it that it needs to. So that's one aspect of training, to increase awareness and reduce stigma. And also, if you had a list of resources or knew that you were working on a list of resources, that would be an excellent time to then ask everyone who's involved at their annual trainings. We're having annual training starting in August and September, to let them know that here are the resources in our area. So that might be a good way to start that conversation as well when we do our annual trainings. And the ROEs, well, another area that you talk about up to age 25, every college and university is required by the state of Illinois to have a McKinney-Vento liaison at the colleges and universities. They're called house liaisons. And so there is a house liaison locator and also a McKinney-Vento liaison locator on the Illinois State Board of Education's website that I can help you find, so that we can maybe send some messages to some people that we need more information from. The ROEs also provide training and know of trainers who do trauma training in schools. And so if that is something that you're interested in, the ROEs arranging, we can talk to some of the PD providers, some of the professional development coordinators at the ROEs to get those trainings in the schools.
Super. Wow, that's a lot of information.
I know.
I'm glad we're recording this meeting. We'll have to get a transcript really and start picking out all these individual pieces. And you made me think of something. I don't think Jody from Decatur Public Schools is on the call unless she's joined late. But you know, I was talking with Jody as we were developing this grant. She shared some information that was pretty interesting. You know, Decatur Public Schools have, I'm gonna say maybe 20 buildings. I'm not sure, but you take like 2 buildings that had about the same student population, similar demographics, and one of them has a whole bunch of students reporting homelessness. Another has almost none. That doesn't make sense unless you think, well, there's something different happening in school A as compared to school B. Maybe the staff is more open to hearing those things. It might be a school nurse or a social worker. It might not be the liaison, it might be the principal, you know, but somebody there that is a person who the kids feel like they can go to, who they can trust, where they won't be judged and they won't be stigmatized. I see Rosaline nodding your head. So that's part of what's behind this emphasis.
We find that a lot in school districts too, just that, and it may be that you have one McKinney-Vento liaison for the entire district, and how can that person get to all those different school buildings? And so they have to have a good team, and that's one of the things that Area 6, the southern portion of the state, that's one of the things that we really try to drive home, that we need to have a team approach. Not only do you have a McKinney-Vento liaison, but you have a McKinney-Vento team, so that when someone needs assistance, we can help with that and we get our team involved. And then it's not just one advocate, it's a whole team of people that are behind that student. It's a concept that we're working on and working toward in all of our school districts. But you could have, you know, the high school team that takes it full force and has, you know, 67 identified McKinney-Vento students, and then the same kind of school district, but only in the lower levels, you have 2 at the elementary school. And it's like, that can't be. So yeah, just getting the message out may be something that we need help with as well.
In an ideal world, every grown-up in every school, whether it's the cafeteria worker or the principal, would know what to do and know what not to do the minute they heard a child experience or express anything that indicated they might be having a problem with homelessness or violence at home, abuse, you know, the bus drivers, everybody would know.
And some of the school districts now are starting to bring in youth mental health first aid and have that training so that people who are going through that training do know what to do. There are different steps to follow. You know, first, you know, you ask and you listen and you give reassurance and then you help them find who they need. And so I think some school districts are offering that training. It can be expensive to train everybody, but I know some school districts are going the extra mile to bring that in.
We have trainers on our end that we are offering for all of our school districts free of charge for youth mental health first aid training through another grant that we have. So I would second that initiative as well. We can certainly be a part of that.
And
just to add to what Rosaline said is, I know it's so cliche, but I say this, it does take a village. And it is, like you said, the secretaries and the lunch ladies and the bus drivers and the principal and the counselors, everybody working together and watching and being aware of situations that may present a red flag. So just to piggyback on what everybody else was saying, I completely agree.
Well, thanks, Rocky. Yeah,
Teresa.
that was Teresa. I thought Rocky was circled. That was Teresa. Excellent comment. I mean, everybody doesn't have to be a trained psychotherapist, but everybody needs to know what to do, what not to do when they get that, and you know, where to send the young person to get help. So that brings us down to the work groups. I'm going to send it back over to Jess.
So we've kind of looked at the application and believe that it would make sense to create two separate work groups. One would be for the subcontractors, those that are working directly with the youth. We've thrown out maybe youth leadership development work group for the name of that one potentially. And then also a group of basically everybody else, like the education, employment, and housing work group. So we are kind of open for suggestions and you guys' thoughts on that. I guess the need of that, and also number 7 kind of ties into that as well. Do you think we need a steering committee? And if so, who's involved in that? What would their tasks be? That kind of thing. So I guess opening the floor for discussion about work groups. And if you guys think that makes sense to have the work groups split up like that, or if you have other ideas, please share them.
I'm kind of concerned that if you have specific targeted groups and don't have a larger group, like a steering committee, you won't have the collaboration between the groups that we need to get the information across. Because everybody will be in their little silos.
Good point.
Just a thought.
Yeah, we may want to just keep it with this big group for a few months. There's been a lot of great ideas that have emerged just today. And I think as we go through those, we can start developing some more targeted strategies and present them back to this group next time. We're also very open to getting emails, you know, with ideas that you might have as to how we could approach each one of these 4 major activities. And then we could, yeah, we're not pushing the idea of dividing into work groups at this point. Just throwing it out.
Yeah, I agree. We may want to keep this larger group at least for a few months until things are more, until we see better where we're going in the processes we need to put in place.
This is Lisa. I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you, as far as groups and such, some of these things seem thing, and so I guess how to, because I think Fred made the point about silos and definitely don't want that. So is there a way to address that? I'm trying to think of,
Yeah.
Linda, help me out here, like where you might see an overlap in services for the youth.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, so I was just on a webinar earlier on harm reduction. And, I was thinking about in working with kids and getting into housing and getting jobs and all that, there's so many things like soft skills, needing to learn those, practicing them.
Those daily living skills.
Yeah, like interdependent living skills. And right now of course, it's not coming to me, but, excuse me, yeah, in order, excuse me, I think there's a lot of learning that kids need, to be able to sustain, work and homes and all that. And so, yeah, I see other kinds of things sort of mixing in, being part of obtaining what we're looking for, what they're looking for. Excuse me, sorry.
Something to think about, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely. What if right now, instead of breaking up into separate work groups, what if we just kept it as the full group?
Yeah.
And then keep meeting as a full group, and then when we get to the point where we can kind of see that
Yeah.
clear path to where it would break off, maybe to have separate work groups, but we could do that. The reasoning behind a work group, I guess, is so that not everybody has to attend every meeting, which we don't plan on having a meeting, every week or anything like that. So I think that's maybe if we plan like once a month right now, especially, we're not even under grant agreement yet. This is all kind of getting ready to do that. So I think keeping one meeting right now is fine, and we can revisit that if you guys are okay with that.
Yeah, plus we expect to be getting some technical assistance through HUD or HUD contractors, pretty soon. We don't know exactly when, but whatever advice they give may be something that would be a benefit to the whole group at this time. And the one piece of advice we did get is keep it a big tent right now. Yeah, don't kick anybody off the island.
Right, and
So,
yeah, speaking of technical assistance, HUD has they have said that there will be 3 levels of available assistance. So the first will be foundational workshops. Those will be available for anyone to attend that's, part of this group. So I'll make sure that I send those out as well. They've also talked about group learning, which I'm not sure exactly what that means. I would assume it's like a peer-to-peer group potentially, but they didn't have details about that. And then they also talked about direct technical assistance. So that's when we work one-on-one, we would have an assigned, kind of like a liaison that would work directly with us and kind of be that go-between between us and HUD. And so we will be eligible for all 3 of those levels in some capacity. So I vote we take all the technical assistance that they can give us, because we're all very new to this. So I mean, might as well. It doesn't cost us anything. It doesn't take out of our grant any amount of funds. It's already built into the grant process. So might as well take the free help while we've got it, is kind of our thoughts. But again, we're open to you guys' thoughts as well.
I agree. Why reinvent the wheel if they already know more than we do?
Right, right. I'm hoping that, I know they do a lot of work with like the YHDP, which is the Youth Homelessness Development Program, maybe not development, but demonstration program. Yeah, so they have a lot of experience with that. And while this is a new program, it's definitely linked. All the pieces are linked. You guys know that. So, yeah. So I guess we'll open up the floor for any questions, comments. If anybody has anything, and then if not, we will go ahead and work on scheduling our next meeting. While we are holding the floor for comments. So John, did you have a comment?
The only thing I was going to add out of people, I know it's far away, but the other two grantees are doing a press release on Friday. In
Yes.
Chicago, unfortunately,
Oh,
they
yeah.
doing Springfield, but they're doing it in Chicago. I don't know if anybody's going to be up there. I do plan to be up there, but
Yes, thank you.
Is anybody on this call planning to be up in Chicago for the announcement?
I thought they had that Monday. Did they change it?
It is Friday at 9 AM, I believe.
here let me pull it up.
And we will have members of Urbis team up there on Friday.
Oh, excellent. Great. Okay, well, you can carry the flag for downstate Illinois for all of us.
Yeah, so I'm going to, I tried to do a poll. Let me know if you guys didn't see it. But here's some dates we thought for the next meeting. So please vote for all of those that would work for you.
You can vote for 3. Okay, it's working.
We're trying out some new technological stuff, guys, so bear with us.
Got 2 people who did this. Hope it's not Jackson.
No, we didn't vote. We're not logged in. Yeah. Another minute or two. We did have a comment in the chat from Cindy. She said, just wondering, should we also have someone from DCFS on this work group? That's a good idea. Oh, John's waving his hand. Where we go? John is.
I don't know if people want someone from the local office. And the other thing, we do have a contract with URBA, new one with URBA, just over less than a year, but we also have a contract with Mr. Cantrell Youth Advocate. They are a housing advocacy provider in Decatur. If you want me to reach out to them, good for them
Well,
to
yeah.
participate.
And Angie's here from Webster Cantrell.
Oh. Hi, Angie.
Awesome. All right. Well, it looks like Tuesday, August 20th at 2 PM. Has one on the poll. So that will be when we schedule our next meeting. I will send out a calendar invite with actually no, I'll send out the Zoom link. You'll have to register and then it'll send you the link for that. Fred, do you have anything else that you?
I've got nothing else. We wanted to get this done in an hour and we're at 49 minutes, so we're off to a good start. Y'all have 10 more minutes to your lives.
Thank you guys for joining. We're
Thank you.
excited about this grant. We're excited to learn about this together, so.
Yeah, this will be fun. And it'll get some good done. Okay, thank you much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.